Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, which is in the Poconos of PA, and I have been our RILA chair for 2 years now. Our RILA's pretty new, this is just our 4th year. We used to do a boys and girls leadership camps with separate for many years, and our group of district governors decided they wanted to do away with that a few years ago. So we stopped it, and we went for 5 years or so with nothing. And they went out looking for a RILA that they wanted to emulate, which they found in a neighboring district, 7210 in New York. We sent kids there for 2 years, and then they said, we will teach you how to do our RILA. We'll come and we'll facilitate it for you for 2 years while you build up your staff and learn what we're doing. Last year was our first year that they were not with us, and this is our first year where I have a complete staff of all RILarians that have come up through. So, and just to follow up on choosing junior counselors, because we do it a kind of a different way also. I'll have 7 junior counselors this year. Next Sunday, I have 19 kids who have applied from last year. And next Sunday, we will all meet, and they will be put through a 3-hour interactive job interview by our senior staff members who were junior counselors last year and are my senior staff now. And so it's all, it's icebreakers, it's situations, and we're all, we're watching them and we're studying them. They all bring their photograph in, and then after 3 hours, they leave. There's also a one-on-one little interview part with them. They leave, and the 10 of us, 12 of us sit down, and we look at their pictures, and we go, okay, now we have to decide. We got to pick 7 of them, and that's how we choose. And so far, it works out pretty well.
So wait, they're all together for the 3
Yes,
hours?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're broken up into groups, and we have we put them through a whole bunch of processes. Yeah, they love it though, because it's like a mini RILA for them.
Right.
But they're put through situational things. And it's not fun.
What's the demographics? How far do these kids come?
My district, we have 42 clubs. We're in 10 counties in northeastern PA. And where we meet is really central to the district, nowhere near where some of you guys have to drive. I think 3 hours is tops for most of the kids. Some of them are an hour, some are less. But I know some of you guys have like these humongous districts. Yeah, we're fortunate in that. Well, what I'm supposed to do is facilitate a little bit about, have a discussion on youth, adults, and the combination thereof. But before I do that, I just want to briefly run through what the jobs are, because we are totally led with only 2 Rotarians this year. This will be the first time. And it's just something that was adopted, so I didn't have anything to do with it, how it got started. But I do know that after being involved with RILA for the last 4 years, that if I were not allowed to be involved because somebody else took my job, I would be very sad. Because as a Rotarian, I couldn't be involved anymore.
Well, what about other Rotarians who can't be because there are only 2 of you?
But they don't know. They don't know that because they've never had the experience yet. So yes, and that's a con for this type of situation. So we have job descriptions. This is my senior staff. My daughter put this together. So you guys see that? Prezi. It's a new kind of presentation thing. So these are our senior staff positions. We have an administrative director, a conference director, program director, facilities, media, quartermaster, a counselor director, and then we have 3 senior counselors. And then we also have our junior counselors. The junior counselors just went to RILA last year.
Yeah, we don't have a lot sometimes. It's a hard decision.
I get practices now.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Should just go to my next thing. There we go. So our administrative director. The objective of an administrative director, and this is somebody who might have last year been a JC, and then they apply to come back the next year as part of the senior staff.
That's what
This is really our collector and keeper of all information. It's like our secretary, administrative assistant, the backbone of what we call backbone of RILA. And this year, this is a senior in high school. And she works, this is her first year doing it, but right now she's learning everything from me. But if she stays in for the next 2 or 3 years, she practically runs, all this information. It takes a big load off of me for everything that she does. Personality traits, she has to be a good communicator, excellent on the phone, mature, level-headed. She also works with Rotarians because she'll help with reaching out to some of the clubs to make sure that they get their paperwork in on time. So this is a great job, a preview to a future job in their, in their real life. Actually, all of these are.
Volunteer?
It's volunteer, but let's stop. But we'll talk about that. So our conference director, I heard somebody use the word face, the face of RILA. This is a person that is the one that's up in front. So when we get together in the mornings, they're standing there, hey RILA, we get everybody's attention. They might go over what we're doing for the day. They facilitate in large groups. They're the face of RILA. They're usually just 1 year out of being a JC. They have to, be a good public speaker, be able to control crowds. You can read that. Usually they're still young enough to relate, so they might be 1 or 2 years older than the JCs themselves. But they facilitate whenever we're in groups, in a large group altogether. They're the face of RILA. And then we have a position called program director. Come back here. I need more practice on this. There we go. So everybody has a program that you do from, early in the morning until late at night. We don't finish up till after 11 either. This program director is in charge of putting that program together. We don't change it too much from year to year. Unless we decide we want to add something or take something away. But they're in charge of getting our speakers scheduled, maintaining what we're going to do when we're going to do it. So that's one person. And again, they were probably a JC last year. They can have this position for a couple of years if they reapply for it each year. That's a program director. Then we have a facilities director. This is the person that will work directly with the college. We're at a college. So they're the liaison between RILA and any facility. So like I said, next Sunday, we are holding our JC selection day, and that's at a different location. It's at a hotel. And so they had to contact the hotel, find a room, get everything set up. It's a great job. Precursor if somebody wants to be an event planner. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. They have to be persistent. Sometimes you run into problems when you're right in the middle. Oh, we need that field to go do our practice for something, and there's a soccer camp on it. Now what are we going to do? The facilities director is the one that goes and handles all that situation. The toilet's clogged in the girls' dorm upstairs. The facilities director goes to the college and gets that taken care of. And that's not an adult. That's one of the past Rilarians. Now I think we'll have a hard time keeping one person in that position year after year.
So the plunger is a past Rilarian?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to start out with. We'll get on that.
Then we have a media director. This is a person who takes care of all of our technology. Fortunately, our college just renovated the room that we needed, and everything's touched on the wall. It's just awesome. The shades come down, goes into presentation mode. It's very cool. But they make sure that everything's working throughout the conference. And we also have a group that's media, and they work together with them, making sure there's enough pictures being taken. And at our graduation, we have all the media. Of course, we get to watch a lot of nice videos that were taken all day long. So it's somebody that's got great knowledge of technology. And again, this is a student that's just recently come. And then a quartermaster is somebody that takes care of all our inventory. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that has to be there. You got to make sure you have enough this and that and whatnot. And so the quartermaster is in charge of making sure we have it. If we don't have it, we have to go out and buy it. Or make sure we have it in preparation.
Have to have a valid driver's license, a reliable car, because we do make some runs during RILA. And then last but not least is our counselor director. And their objective is to train and motivate our junior and senior counselors from selection through, we have a weekend of training and then RILA. This is a person that it would be great if they were a teacher, because they have to have those kind of qualities. This year, this is the first year I had to use one of my past Rilarians, and I have a freshman in college that's taking this role on for the first time. So it's going to be quite interesting. But he has everything cut out for him from the RILA that we learned everything from. So that's just kind of how the jobs that we have. And then we have 3 senior counselors. And they were a junior counselor the year before, and their objective, same as what I've heard a lot of you say, you have your junior counselor that's in charge of the group, and then we have 7 groups, and then we have 3 senior counselors, and they each have 2 or 3 groups that they oversee. So it's not one on one. Okay. Okay, and that's that. So I don't know how we want to do this as far as having a discussion on how many of you, raise your hands, how many of your RILAs are all youth-led, like mine is, where only 2 Rotarians are at the head of this? So you represent 2 RILAs, right?
Yes, sorry.
That's fine. Anybody else? Okay, so there's 3, because mine's 1. And how many of you are all adults that you don't use any students, any past Rilarians? So you're 1. You're 1, and you're 1, so that's 3, right? But don't you guys do boys and girls, right?
The girls use them, the boys don't.
Oh, the girls do use them, okay. So that was 3, and then I guess the rest of you do a combo. How many RILAs is that? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get us all? Something like that? Okay, so let's see. Oh, that's pretty, it's interesting, huh?
That is interesting.
When you break it down, so. I don't know, what do you want to talk about?
Well,
Yeah.
our Rotary, or our RILA chairperson, our Rotarian, I mean, he does all the background work, all the administrative work, so I never wanted to seem like we're running all that. I mean, he's a huge part, and we have several key Rotarians that do a lot of the pre-work, like the work done before the week. But the week
So
is
they
run
there?
by
Yeah.
the youth.
Yeah. So
And-
your Rotarians are there?
Yes.
Our head Rotarian is there, our second in command Rotarian is there, but that's it. We have other Rotarians that are very involved in the pre-work, and they come and visit during the week, but they don't stay the whole week. So I never wanted to seem like there's no Rotarians involved.
Well, because there has to be Rotarians involved, because,
Correct.
you know, it's a Rotary event.
But during
and
the
there's
week,
insurance
it's the
involved.
youth.
Yes, and that's the same, pretty much the same way mine is that myself and my co-chair, we're there, and we're kind of in the background,
Right.
but we're involved, but we're in the background. You know, we don't, unless there's a problem, situation, the kids are all, they are running it, from
Right.
the junior counselors to that senior staff. You know, they definitely are. Tracy, what did you say? You forget?
Senior moment.
I'm sorry.
I did it too, I'm sorry.
The schedules, who does the schedules? Do the counselors with the youth ones, do they get together and decide on a schedule? Or is the schedule something that people just have set prior,
Yeah,
that the
we-
youth come in and run it, or?
It's
do people
already-
just set schedule?
For us, our program is pretty much set. We had a meeting in December. We had a whole staff meeting in December. And we went through and pretty much said, okay, we know we're going to keep the schedule the same, or we're going to change this. But then our program director is in charge of making sure that, you know, the speakers are set up and everybody gets a schedule, the program when they arrive, in a nice little binder, like somebody else had a nice little binder. And that's got our schedule in it, and that's what we stick to. And we don't really, you know, differ from it year to year unless we decide the speaker wasn't working at this time, everybody was tired, you know, and then we might switch things out. But it's pretty much set every year. Although after coming here, I'm sure I'll go back and change a few things.
What about everybody else? Does
We
everybody-
said it with our RILA chair.
Who's a Rotarian?
So
You
it's
said
a
it,
combination.
Yeah.
We work with him, the two of us work with him.
Do you change it much year to year, or?
It, not drastically, we change speakers because the speakers aren't available. And like you said, after this being here, there's things we
We're all
want to
gonna
tweak
change
and things we
things.
want to add. And we kind of just always ask, how can we do it better?
Yeah.
We debrief with the student groups each night, and then the counselors bring that back to us and say, okay, the kids really like this, they didn't like this, we maybe need more time for this. So it's small tweaking usually, but it's youth, I guess if you consider us youth. That's
You're
nice.
young.
I love that. And a Rotarian.
Did goes ahead?
Yeah, it wasn't one of your roles, so I'm guessing it's probably not in your route, so I'm wondering if anybody else has one. Does anybody have it, whether it be a student or Rotarian, but ideally a student maybe that's in charge of the promotion and, like, I thought it was gonna be an immediate director, somebody that maybe runs the Facebook, the social media outlets. Does anybody have that as a role, maybe as a,
During the week, we have that as a role.
anybody throughout the course of the year? But so you do have it during the week.
And then on our Facebook, we have just like the administrators, and we kind of
Yeah,
make sure
my
that everybody-
administrative director does that
Your admin director
along
does it,
with me,
okay.
yeah. We just kind of implemented that. She has the ability to, be an administrator on site, and
Yeah.
she's working on that. Yeah.
I was just gonna throw out, when I took over as chair at RILA, we were separate boy and girl camps, and then we combined, but it was still all adult run. There was no youth involvement at all. And then I visited, Rocky Mountain and saw how I just got excited about seeing those kids up there. And we slowly implemented that. And not to say that anybody needs necessarily change, but one of the things I feel like is you think about these students in the rest of their lives, opportunities they have to be a leader. So one I always use example is student council. Okay, you run for student council, okay, you're president. Well, what do I do? Well, talk to the person who did it before you. Well, they talk to the person who did it before them. And there's no real guidance or direction. And so I think RILA gives us a unique opportunity to bring these students back, to have them gain those leadership skills. Everybody in this room is a leader or should be a leader or working to be a leader. These kids, most of them are just starting to figure themselves out. And we need to put them in situations where they will both succeed and they will fail. And we can't do that if we do everything for them. Again, if we expect these students in the next, some of them are 16, 17, 18 years old, in the next 5, 6 years, they're going to be lawyers, they're going to be doctors, they're going to be doing, well, somebody's got to give them an opportunity to lead. And so I feel like it's so important to give them a lead. But I think they need that adult support, that Rotarian there. We have it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You have a junior counselor and a senior counselor. That student might get in a situation with their team they don't know how to deal with. Or things might get out of hand, and somebody's got to be the disciplinarian. And so we feel like you've got to have that adult there, right there, to support them. Not to run the show, but just somebody there that can take them aside. Or if they get done with an activity and they can tell that the junior counselor is frustrated, they can take them aside and say, hey, I kind of tell you're frustrated. What can we do to help? Or hey, I noticed that. Did you notice that Johnny really wasn't engaging in this activity? And they say, oh, no, I didn't know that. Okay. I just think it's so important to have that support mechanism there. And that's just why we do it the way we do it.
So one-on-one is how many for your,
So we have 8 RILArians, and then you have a junior counselor and a senior counselor for every team across the board. And then we have 2 head JCs, an activities director, and then
so
our
your
RILA chair.
staff is what, like close to 30, is that where?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
And they stay there overnight and.
Yep, they're there the whole.
Now, let me ask you this, when you have Rotarians who are involved in your RILA, do they pay their way, or does that come out of the total expense of RILA?
It's out of the total.
Total
No
expense.
counselors pay for.
Yeah, we don't pay the counselors, but I
So
was
the
just
clubs-
wondering, those that
Club
have.
makes sense and good
Wait.
they're all
Yeah.
out.
You don't pay for the council?
Yeah, the clubs pay.
Well,
yeah,
the clubs,
pay. Okay.
The
So it comes out of your
fees
expense,
that
just
the
like
kids
your,
covers
all your other counselors.
Yeah.
I understand.
Anything.
I understand.
So for those of you who are just adults and you don't use any of your staff that come back, that you've seen of your staff coming back, share with us a little as to your philosophy on that, or what do you?
It kind of evolved into that, but, and a little of the history is that our camp, I found out kind of backhandedly from some kids that finally shared this with me, that our camp had a reputation for some of the unbelievable pranks and things that were happening, and I just happened to have been in charge of the watching out after that, when it finally became clear that when we found junior counselors in the middle of some of those pranks, that we just had to go to 2 adults in the cabins, what we did to just really get rid of that problem. And we weren't screening our junior counselors as well as you, so we were using volunteers that came back from previous years, but we also had that reputation that took literally years to dispel. We had counselors that were subscribed to that same kind of MO at camp, so we had balloon fights that were just epic. But when they ran out of balloons and pulled their belts off and started whacking each other, it was obvious, you know. I had to call the parents about the welts and everything, so it just evolved for us. And now that we still have boys, and I was going to touch upon this in my little gender talk, is that those boys, when they're only boys, act a little bit different than if they have the ladies to kind of tame that down a little bit. So we've stayed with it now, and we've had fewer injuries. I've not sent anybody home. I mean, we really glad to have drivers. We have to have drivers and I have to have 2 drivers standing by in case one's already at the hospital with one of these boys. But we've tried to tame that down, and we've come a long ways, and it's been with the 2 adults in each cabin.
But your girls.
The girls do
use
both,
the-
and that's working out apparently very well for them.
Well, I have junior counselors and counselors that are in their young teens. Last year I had 3 counselors that were 25, and then, because there's 20 of us, and so there were 10 junior counselors, and then there were 7 of us that were older adult ladies. But we do not agree within our district on this. I think the junior counselors are critical to the program.
Yeah, like Heather said it so well, you know, what the junior counselors bring. And we do the same thing, is that we try to tell the junior counselors, now don't tell them that you're just a year older than them. And until the end of the week, when they're all like, oh, how did you get to be a junior counselor? Like, well, last year when I was at Ryla, like, hi, you know, last year,
Totally
I
blows
thought
their
you were,
minds.
you know, I thought you were in college or something.
So, does anybody who uses junior council, so a lot of these have wide age ranges, and we go from 9th through 12th grade. Does anybody have a situation where you have a 9th grader that comes, is a good attendee, wants to come back as a junior counselor, they'd be a sophomore, now you've got juniors and seniors that they're leading in theory.
Yeah,
Does
we're
anybody
only
have that?
we're one age.
You're
We're
one age.
sophomore going into junior, so we're 15, 16.
And you guys are only 2 years,
Totally
so
alleviates
you're
that
alleviating.
problem.
Well, we'll have seniors come back as junior counselors and maybe younger than the seniors that are in the team.
So
Yeah, we
Still
have-
seniors.
that's what
We
it
have
was saying.
juniors, seniors attend Ryla, and then seniors can come back
Okay.
as
So
staff.
we have sophomores and juniors, but to come back as junior counselor, we call them alumni, you have to be at least a senior in high school. So if you come as a sophomore, you really couldn't apply until you're a senior.
At 7490, which is in New Jersey, which I used to work with, we had strictly high school juniors. You could not come back at your senior year, and you could come back your first time as a freshman, because we wanted that separation a little bit. They're still young adults, but there's just that age gap. It worked really nicely. The reason we don't do it is because we have a younger program, and we can't farm, we can't work that far ahead because we didn't have the counselors that had graduated 2 years ago. So,
Interesting question, yeah.
And I'd like to speak to that too. You know, we've had this debate in our district for